of operation with the airport authority, including accountability for customer experience. Prior to his start with the authority in 2007, he was guiding companies in the use of customer data to improve overall customer satisfaction and operational effectiveness. Steve works has been in industries such as financial services, banking, telecommunication, and manufacturing. It is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Steve Hankinson.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here tonight and to address an audience that is actually near and dear to my heart because you're about service. And at YVR, we have made that a real point of focus for us over the last number of years in terms of care for every customer. So tonight what I want to be able to do is step you through some of the things that are our focus at YVR and what we're doing to improve the experience of the customer. Over the next 10 years, we've just announced a $1.8 billion expansion program and construction program, and I'm going to step you through some of the highlights so you'll have some sense of what is happening to your airport. We call it BC's airport, as it really is the gateway to Asia Pacific, and obviously employment opportunities abound. So just wait for PowerPoint to do its thing. The second piece is just to talk about some of our care programs, just to give you a highlight in terms of some of the things that we're doing there. What's also important for us is that we're building a relationship with folks like you, who are focused on caring for the customer. And what I want to do is step you through how we at the airport might be able to help you as you encounter some of the more challenging questions that arise that pertain to airports. And I'll share a little bit about how we can help you in that process. If I had the presentation, I could tell you this is what it looks like and, do a song and dance. We'll just wait for this to... Excellent. So I'll just say go and you'll just advance. So that's perfect. You're kind of my remote control. You got it. Excellent. If we can just head to 2001, 80th birthday. Skip over a slide. Perfect. Last year, Vancouver celebrated its 80th birthday, so the airport is actually 80 years old. The airport authority itself is only 20 years old, and we celebrate 20 years this year. And last year, how many people did move through YVR? Anybody know the numbers? What's the number? Everybody here went through YVR. How many of you went through YVR? What was the total number last year? Remember? Anybody know?
15 million.
Just over 17 million. No, I wish it was 50. One day it will be. Just over 17 million people traveled through YVR. YVR's focus is to move people, planes, and bags safely and securely. That's really what we're about, because as an airport, we're a point to somewhere else in that journey for the customer. So as they come through the airport, we're really focused on ensuring that it's a great experience for the customer. If we could advance. One of the things that the airport provides is huge economic benefit for the province. Over 23,000 people are directly employed at YVR. Another 60,000 indirectly employed because of YVR. And a contribution of $1.9 billion in terms of Canada's GDP. So the airport is critical. The airport is a fundamental component of BC's economy and in terms of what we're about. If we advance. Caring for our customers. When I started 4 years ago, I didn't come from an airport background. I joined the airport, and one of the privileges I had was to look at our care strategy, our customer care strategy, and look at ways that we can improve the overall experience for the customers that come through the airport. One of the things that I learned in traveling lots and going through lots of airports is just how unfriendly a lot of airport experiences were. When you needed help, you couldn't find it. So the antithesis of actually helping airports, many people think, is put more technology out, put better signs out, and then you solve the customer's problem. And I would disagree with that. The way to really serve the customer is to be there, just as you do in your job every day. So to that end, we revamped our customer care counters, did that in time for the Olympics. We expanded the number of customer care professionals who are on the floor to help that customer rather than just pointing the customer out in terms of where they should go and finding a gate or finding a retail store. It's actually show them, take them there, help them in that journey through the airport. So care for every customer is actually foundational, and as you work with your customer and you are ever to encounter an airport related, not an airline related, but an airport related problem or question, What I want you to do is write down this phone number that you could call so that you can be in touch with one of our operations managers who's on site 24/7 and get the expert help you need so you can solve your customer's problem. That number is 604-207-7077. And I'll make sure Stefan has that phone number so that he can include that in any material that is going out post-meeting. What that number, just to repeat, 604-207-7077, gives you access to Operations Center, and in turn we can then assist and provide some additional support that you might need in terms of caring for your customer. If we can advance one. One of the ways that we are expanding our capability of caring for customers is the expansion of our Green Coat volunteer program. We have 375 volunteers today, and we're on our way to 600 volunteers. One of the things that Vancouver enjoys is this strong sense of volunteerism. We're going to harness that and put more volunteers out on the floor. How many of you have ever interacted with a Green Coat? So lots of you have. We have folks who volunteer from ages 18 to 85. Last year, 70,000 volunteer hours were given to helping customers in their journey through YVR. So it's a huge commitment on our part to ensure we're serving the customer well and that we differentiate our experience at YVR by being available to assist and help that customer. If we advance one. Part of the experience is also the retail experience. We pay a lot of attention to retail, and right now, if you were to depart internationally, you would see one of our main duty-free stores undergoing renovation. We are in the throes of opening up a whole new duty-free store, which will open in May. Very similar if you've flown through Heathrow in the last couple of years. The walk-through duty-free store, it's called World Duty Free. It's the same operator in Heathrow as here. And that whole new section of the retail section in international will open in May. In addition to the retail services, we're ecstatic about some additional air service opportunities. Just to advance, we've got Virgin Atlantic, who will begin service to Heathrow 4 times a week beginning May 24th. We're really excited about that. Why? Because what we found last year is that it was tough to get a seat to London from Vancouver. There just wasn't enough capacity, so this will help meet that need. Secondly, Szechuan Airlines is bringing tourists from China. China has just recently moved to number 5 in terms of the number of tourists coming to BC, displacing Australia. So we're seeing this growth come out of China and out of Asia. We're ecstatic about that. But we can't sit still. If we advance the next slide, one of the issues that we're struggling with is increased competition. Airports often aren't thought of as competing with each other, but in fact we do. Changes in aircraft types and technologies, so the Boeing 787 provides greater range. Changes in navigational technology now mean that there is competition with other airports that didn't previously exist. So if I was flying out of Beijing, typically I'd be looking to come into Vancouver or San Francisco or Los Angeles. And if we advance the slide, because of technology now, it opens up more opportunities, so I can fly Beijing to Chicago. I can fly Beijing to New York. So Vancouver, as a Pacific gateway, normally would have been one of the first places to stop. That's no longer true with the new technology. So competition is heating up. Edmonton just announced the opening of 12 new gates, international gates. Calgary on its way to building 22 new gates and a new runway for just over $2 billion. Vancouver, we have 27 international gates. So what that means is that Edmonton and Calgary are vying for our business. Why? Because they don't have the volume of customers available in their markets to fly Edmonton or Calgary, so they want to eat our lunch. We're not going to let that happen. So BC's airport is focused on growth. And our growth is focused on developing our gateway strategies so that we're competitive. We're a low-cost airport, so for airlines, we're inexpensive to fly to. So we've just announced the Gateway Incentive Program. What that allows airlines to do is to grow with us over the next 5 years, and their rates and charges don't change from what they paid in 2010. So we've frozen the costs. So airlines can grow with us at really no additional cost. What that means for all of us in the room? Well, tourists, business travelers, and that's what will ultimately grow the airport. And advancing to the next slide. We are also focused on becoming a better connecting or gateway airport. Today, if I were moving through Vancouver and I were connecting from Beijing through Vancouver to Winnipeg, I would have to go through a 7-step process. And what we are wanting to do is simplify that. And I'm not going to walk you through all 7 steps. It's a 7-step process. And what we're doing, if you advance to the next slide, is part of the announcement a couple of weeks ago is we're expediting the ability for customers to connect and going from 7 steps to 3 steps. And you say, well, why? How does that benefit us? If a customer is connecting from Beijing through Vancouver onto Winnipeg, how does that benefit us in the room? Well, a couple of ways. One is new air services. Typically what happens is you grow and you become a connecting airport. It provides more opportunities and more connection points out of Vancouver. So for those of us who live in BC, it actually improves our access points to other locations in the world. The other piece of it is it also opens up opportunity for customers to actually come to BC. And rather than just doing a straight connect, to actually use Vancouver as a stop-off point midway in that journey before they carry on. So what does that look like? Advancing to the next slide. A number of things. Adding new corridors so that customers who are connecting move through the airport much faster. We're putting in a new high-speed baggage system that allows the bag to move from one aircraft to the next aircraft with less error, which is very important because a missed bag for an airline can cost $100 to $125 in bottom line impact if that bag is missed. Upgrades to some of our existing domestic facilities, and for those of you who've flown out via WestJet, and I use WestJet because you can then picture where that is in the terminal. It's called our AB pier. That part of the building goes back to 1968. It's tired. So it's going to be replaced with a new facility similar to what Air Canada enjoys today in C Pier. So just to contrast, if you've flown the two, you can get the visual comparison. So moving on to the next slide. Specifically, what we're looking at doing is ensuring that we are a better gateway airport, that a customer connecting through Vancouver, instead of today taking about 90 minutes to make that connection, can do so in under 60 minutes. What that does is it makes Vancouver far more competitive as a gateway. By expediting that for the airlines, they make more money because the airline only makes money when the airplane is flying, not when it's at the terminal. So by expediting the ability to turn that aircraft around, reload that aircraft and send it on its way, that's money in the jeans of the airlines, and then that's a benefit to all of us. Moving on to our next slide. This gives you a visual of what the new AB pier will look like. So again, I use the C pier example where Canada arrives and departs domestically as the current example because it'll look similar to that. And what that means is that it just gives the experience for the customer a big lift on that part of our terminal facility and removes some of that 1968 retro look. I don't know, is that the year of the dragon? What is 1968? I'm not going to do the math. But the point is that we need to do an upgrade. We're undertaking that significant piece of work starting later this year. If you move to the next slide, you get another flavor of what this will look like. So it's a significant transformation for the oldest part of the facility. Moving on to the last slide. As an airport authority, we are absolutely committed to seeing that Vancouver is competitive, that we are a growing airport, that we in fact can stem off the competition from places like Bellingham and Seattle, in part working with provincial government, for example, on the fuel tax, which will eliminate additional taxation on fuel. So what that means, translated for an airline, if an airline is flying every day to Hong Kong with a 747, it's about $1 million extra in fuel costs a year because of that tax. So what we've done is work with the provincial government to eliminate that tax later this year. Again, that's $1 million back in the pockets of the airline. It makes us more competitive. That's important because Alberta and Washington State do not have a fuel tax, whereas BC has had a fuel tax. So working on a multitude of different levels to ensure that we're competitive, ensuring that we're reaching new markets, because at the end of the day, that's good for all of us. It brings customers, it brings tourists and business folks to your hotel, to our province, and that's just overall good news. I want to give you the opportunity to ask any questions, and you can do so either now or on the break. I'll be around and be happy to take any questions, and I'll make sure that that phone number is passed along. So if you're looking for any help as you're working with a customer who is in need and has an airport-specific question, that you can call us and we'd be there to help you out and help you on them on their way. Thank you very much.
Anyone have any questions to ask? Marlene?
Yes, I was just curious, when you say that you're going to make connections easier for people coming in on international flights, are you looking at doing away with security at ITPC before passengers go down to the domestic piers?
That's part of it. So in that slide where I showed you the 7 steps, I didn't want to bore you and take you through all 7 steps, and it's down to 3. We're working with federal government at all sorts of levels within the federal government, including the US government, to streamline that whole process. So it eliminates steps, it allows customers to move easily through the airport. Think of Europe. If you're to fly through Heathrow and connecting on somewhere else, you're not burdened with some of the things that you are in Canada. So it needs to be simplified so that we are more competitive.
Julie?
Are there going to be upgrades in the E90, E95 pier, especially for, we need golf carts to be able to take our passengers through there. Right now we're using wheelchairs, which is, for us, is not that feasible.
So it's under consideration. It's not a straightforward fix. Sometimes you wish it were. That is one that is not a straightforward fix, but it's been identified as a point of concern. And if we're about moving people, planes, and bags safely, securely, then moving golf carts is part of that equation. So it's on the radar screen.
2 quick questions. One again about the golf carts. I would think there should almost be a designated area. Like, I'm surprised more people haven't been hit with the golf carts, even if it was a kind of a lane that's for golf carts only, and if people have to merge in there. It's scary going through that airport. And the other one is Nexus through ITPC. There's nothing on that side, and people get stuck there and can't get back out to where they can access Nexus.
Right, so golf carts first, and then I'll talk about Nexus. The golf cart issue is a significant issue. If you go to certain airports like Beijing, where it's big, wide, and open, it's less of an issue. Vancouver is not designed that way. So the tension between golf carts and those walking, it's there. We're aware of it. We continue to work for solutions. Part of some of what we're doing will address issues with golf carts. It won't solve all of them, but it takes us a step forward. As it relates to Nexus, the challenge with Nexus has been on the American side, and recognizing and honoring Nexus. So where Nexus typically would give you a fast path, it hasn't at airports like it has at the land borders. We're working with the US government, all the Canadian airports, to streamline that. Some of the initiatives between the federal government and the US government, hopefully, will help resolve some of those tensions, and we see some change this year. Here's fingers crossed. We're hoping that happens, because it's a real problem for customers where they have a certain expectation of service and it falls short of that.
Thank you. The new AIF, has that been confirmed? And if so, is it going to be something that, like the previous, where the paid at the airport will be built into ticket costs?
So it is confirmed for May 1, and will be built into part of the overall ticket cost.
Okay,
It won't be something
We'll
separate.
be purchasing something to be...
No, it just will be embedded.
Okay, thanks.
And what does that cost, just for knowledge sake?
From $15 to $20. If you're flying within BC, it remains at $5. There was no change there.
With the growing diversity of travelers, international travelers coming through YVR, one of the things that I noticed when we were at Heathrow is multi-page prayer rooms. Is that something that you guys will ever take a look at, or maybe acknowledge? Because I know that there's a little chapel in the corner at International Arrivals.
Right.
But is there something more that we're going to be looking at, especially when you have connecting flights and you have the layover time, etc., and many faiths who are going to be walking through the halls of YVR?
No, thank you for that. Let me take that away. We do have the chapel, which is multi-faith, and they will allow anybody of any faith to enter the chapel. But in terms of connecting customers, that's a great takeaway. Thank you for that feedback. Happy to hear that.
One more questions? No? Well, thank you so very much.